Welcome to Extraterrestrial Reality. Today I want to talk about the praying mantis aliens. I was talking about them a little bit yesterday, and I want to get into just focus on those things today. It appears that these praying mantis creatures are the ones who are in charge of the greys, the tall greys, and apparently reptilian-style beings. Is there something above them we don't really know? According to research from different people who have hypnotized abductees, as far as we know, the mantises are on the top of this hierarchy, and apparently they're the ones who are responsible for the hybridization program. They're the ones who want this. If what we suspect that maybe these gray beings, the short grays, the tall grays, and perhaps even the reptilians themselves, maybe they are genetically modified by the praying mantises to work here, to do the labor, to do the work that the mantises want to get done, and they basically just issue orders. It's hard to understand. It's hard to actually believe that something like this could possibly have happened. That an insect like a praying mantis could have evolved into an intelligent being, even more so than to a level that surpasses where we are right now. I mean, we've only been recording history, we humans, for 5,000 plus years, somewhere around there. I mean, we've been around for some millions of years, sure, but we really didn't even start recording history till about 5,000 or 6,000 years ago. So you have to wonder, like, when did these mantises develop? When did they how long have they been intelligent beings? I mean, where were they at 10 million years ago? For all we know, they may have evolved. May have reached our place of in evolution millions of years ago. They could be millions of years more advanced than we are, and I wouldn't doubt that, because they are very good at what they do. They are very secretive. They have a program ongoing. It appears they are what it seems like to me. What's happening is if they are the ones in charge, if they are the top of the food chain and there's nothing above them, right, then they are the ones who are responsible for this alleged hybridization program. And you got to give them hats off to the how well they've been doing this. I mean, how great their program really has progressed, because we still, I mean, for one thing, our governments are too afraid to even tell us the truth about this extraterrestrial presence. I mean, some of us know, of course, for various reasons, the truth. So if that's the case, you can understand why they are keeping this secret. Because let's look at what's happening here. If, for instance, these other beings that are beneath the mantises, that say they have been genetically modified to perform certain tasks that benefit the mantises, particularly this hybridization program. And what does this seem like? What does this hybridization program consist of? Well, it consists of basically taking male sperm and eggs, mixing them with alien DNA, impregnating female victims, human females, then removing the fetus after 3 months. Of course, we've talked about this before, and then taking care of the rest of the process themselves somehow, putting them in tanks somewhere and growing them themselves. And then, actually, from what we've understand from people like Dr. David M. Jacobs, who's written different books like The Thread here, what happens next is what's happening for years now, it seems, is that they've been mingling among us beings that are alien in nature but look like humans, and that's the goal seems to keep doing this, integrating themselves, changing our DNAs to something else, to something that they want for whatever reason. We don't know why. Is that how they take over planets? Rather than just kill everybody, what they do is that they just basically absorb us. And, we've talked about this before. I just want to point out, in David Jacobs' book, The Threat, I just want to point out what these... there was a section here on page 94 that talks about the insectoids, or the praying mantis aliens. It says here, and this is on page 94 and 95 of The Threat, the hardcover edition. It says, the reports of reptilians or insectoids may simply be a matter of word choice, and some abductees apply these descriptive terms to aliens whom other abductees might describe as standard grays. Assuming, however, that reptilian and insect-like beings are actually different types, it is noteworthy that abductees almost always see them with the gray aliens, not alone, and that the tasks they perform are all within the standard alien matrix. They generally perform the taller beings' more specialized functions. Abductees often express dislike or fear of these aliens, sometimes characterizing them as mean or evil, although they have no evidence for these assertions. Although we have not yet delineated the reptilian beings' roles, the insectoid beings are coming into sharper relief. Abductees have reported an alien who seems to have a higher rank and supervisory status than even the taller beings. He is very tall and is usually wearing a cape or long robe with a high collar. He often is described as an insect-like being who looks somewhat like a praying mantis or a giant ant. He examines abductees only infrequently and most often engages in staring procedures. I just want to stop there for a second. The staring procedures is basically when they could be putting things into your mind. They could read your mind. They could stare into your mind. They could make you see things that aren't real. This is what some of the things that abductees have reported. Anyway, continuing here, it says, when he communicates telepathically with humans, his talk is often more substantive and he is sometimes more forthcoming in the information he imparts. But generally, he stands back, observes the abduction proceedings, and may issue directions to the taller beings. The existence of task-specific beings suggests a hierarchical society and the probability of a governmental body with a downward-flowing chain of command from the insect-like beings to the shorter gray aliens. Other aliens appear to act somewhat subservient to the insect-like beings. If this is the case, then we can hypothesize that they might possess the highest authority for the entire breeding program, and therefore might be the group that initiated. Abductees frequently comment that the aliens display a hive mentality. The shorter aliens especially look alike, dress alike, and act alike, and on board the UFO they do nothing that suggests unique personality traits. All individual activity is directed toward the abduction goal in a clinical and dispassionate way. The taller gray aliens appear to have more individuality, and the robed insect-like ones even more. Although the aliens might have disagreements and annoyances among themselves, they generally present a united and positive front to the abductees. They constantly tell the abductees about how important the program is and how thankful they are for the abductees' help. So that's a description of what these insects beings are like. But it's just so fantastic to imagine that something like this has evolved someplace else. But they're here. They have been reported many, many, many times. I mean, in fact, you could see images of them in that Turkey UFO footage. And in the one image, it appears that there are grays along with a praying mantis alien hovering over what appears to be a human. Was that human abducted and doesn't even know that he's there, and that they're doing things to him, manipulating him, removing sperm from him, perhaps? We can only speculate on that. But yeah, these beings are real. It's not fantasy. Is my speculation that they're planning to basically consume mankind and transform us into something that serves them at some point in the future? That could be true. I don't know. It's all speculation. But anyway, when you look at the mantises that we have here, it's very interesting. I'm just going to read a little bit information here from Wikipedia about these insects. It says mantises have large triangular heads with a beak-like snout and mandibles. They have 2 bulbous compound eyes, 3 small simple eyes, and a pair of antennae. The articulation of the neck is also remarkably flexible. Some species of mantis can rotate their heads nearly 180 degrees. I'm going to skip through a lot of this. I'm going to hit on a couple of points here. It says most mantises can only hear ultrasound. Mantises have 2 spiked, grasping forelegs, raptorial legs, in which prey items are caught and held securely. We're going to skip forward here, but it talks about their vision on here. It says mantises have stereo vision. They locate their prey by sight. Their compound eyes contain up to 10,000 ommatidia, a small, let's look that up here. I don't know what that is. Ommatidia is the compound eyes of arthropods like insects, crustaceans, and millipedes are composed of units called ommatidia. And an ommatidium contains a cluster of photoreceptor cells surrounded by support cells and pigment cells. The outer part of the ommatidium is overlaid with a transparent cornea. Okay, I just wanted to give a little, because I didn't understand that. Anyway, continuing here, there's a small area of the front called the fovea, has greater visual acuity than the rest of the eye and can produce the high resolution necessary to examine potential prey. So it sounds like they could see pretty well, and they do see in 3D. And what's interesting here also is the diet and hunting habits of these things. Mantises are generalist predators of arthropods. The majority of mantises are ambush predators that only feed upon live prey within their reach. They either camouflage themselves and remain stationary, waiting for prey to approach, or stalk their prey with slow, stealthy movements. Larger mantises sometimes eat smaller individuals of their own species, as well as small vertebrates such as lizards, frogs, fish, and particularly small birds. Most mantises stalk tempting prey if it strays close enough, and will go further when they are especially hungry. Once within reach, mantises strike rapidly to grasp the prey with their spiked raptorial forelegs. Some ground and bark species pursue their prey in a more active way. So we're just going to skip through that. So basically, these things do eat and kill and eat, and sometimes they eat each other. And I'm going to skip through there. And they're also preyed upon by some of these same things. We're going to skip through here to something that's really disturbing about them. They engage in sexual cannibalism. Anyway, sexual cannibalism is common among predatory species of mantises in captivity. It has sometimes been observed in natural populations where about a quarter of male-female encounters result in the male being eaten by the female. Around 90% of the predatory species of mantises exhibit sexual cannibalism. Adult males typically outnumber females at first, but their numbers may be fairly equivalent later in the adult stage, possibly because females selectively eat the smaller males. So basically, doesn't that sound nice? Not only do they eat other living beings, they actually eat themselves. Cannibals. The reason for sexual cannibalism has been debated. Experiments show that females on poor diets are likelier to engage in sexual cannibalism than those on good diets. Some hypothesize that submissive males gain a selective advantage by producing offspring. This is supported by a quantifiable increase in the duration of copulation among males which are cannibalized, in some cases doubling both the duration and the chance of fertilization. So, so that's just a little... to think that something like this evolved into an intelligent being that is engaged in a hybridization program of human beings is actually absolutely incredible. So, are these things responsible for cattle mutilations? Then are they drinking the blood too, or are some of the parts that are removed from cattle eaten by these praying mantises, these intelligent mantises? We don't know. Could be. And maybe it's a combination. Maybe those cattle mutilations, it's to remove blood from the cattle to feed not only the minions, the short greys, the tall greys, the reptilians, but maybe also the praying mantises. Maybe they all live off some sort of food that is derived, that they get through these cattle mutilations, through the blood, and perhaps even some of the body parts that are sometimes removed. We don't really know. It's all pure speculation. But again, nobody to this point has proven who or what is behind cattle mutilations after years and years, after over 50 years now, well over 50 years that we've been talking about this, and there has been no proof whatsoever brought forward by anybody that shows that cattle mutilations are being caused by predators or crazies. There's nothing out there. There's no evidence. Nobody's ever caught anybody yet. However, there have been reports of UFOs during usually before these incidents occur. So I guess, it's something to think about. It's something to consider, that what we might be dealing with is a being that, if you look at their history, if their history is anything like, if they are based on anything like the praying mantises that we have here, then they could be predators. They could be not only here to eat animal life here, feed on animal life, but maybe even us. We just don't know. There have been reports of human mutilation. There are many thousands, tens of thousands of unsolved disappearances every year. I have talked to someone who has reported that there was one of these praying mantises outside of his home at one point back in the 1990s, and this person believes that thing, he felt that this thing wanted to eat him, and it ended up not happening. He believes because there were some fighter jets that showed up, and then this thing took off, got into some sort of a craft, and it took off then too, and then the fighter jets followed suit. But so we just don't know what the story is, or if in fact the praying mantises are in charge, or are the ones pulling all the strings at the top, or if there's something above them. We just have no clue. But I just thought it was very interesting to talk about. Anyway, I want to move on to something else here today. I want to talk about aliens and water. There's a lot of different cases. I was looking up, there's a website, Above Top Secret. It talks about, somebody had posted on here some years, over 10 years ago, back in 2010, a bunch of different cases from places like UFO Casebook about incidents involving extraterrestrials taking on water into their spacecraft. And I find this very interesting. And here was a case actually from, 1940, a UFO case in 1940 where somebody saw that. Now, this is way before the Kenneth Arnold situation in 1947. So, and this happened in Montana. And here's the headline for this one. It says, UFOs and water case, Broadwater County, Montana. At an isolated location, miner Udo Wartina saw a large disc-shaped object about 35 foot high and about 100 feet across hovering above a meadow. The object resembled two soup plates, one inverted over the other and stainless steel in appearance. Wartina then saw a staircase unfold from the bottom of the craft. Out of it came a man who asked him if the ship could take some water. The man then invited Wartina inside the object. Wartina accepted and met another man inside that told him they had come from a distant planet and were 609 years old. They also claimed that they hadn't seen Wartina when they began their descent, since they usually avoided human contact. But they also said they had come to gather information, leave instructions, or give help where needed. They told Wartina that the ship was powered by hydrogen extracted from water and created its own gravitational field. When Wartina left the ship, it rose straight into the air and quickly disappeared. Here's another incident that happened in March 23rd, 1978 in Brazil. 67-year-old João Inicio Ribeiro was walking along the ocean front when he saw a circular object about 10 meters in diameter approach from the sea. It had brilliant blue, yellow, green, and lilac-colored lights. On its upper section, it had a sort of cabin or cupola with 3 circular windows. The craft approached, stopped, and hovered above the waters, causing the area directly below the object to become agitated and choppy. Ribeiro then saw 2 short humanoids appear on top of the craft. The figures were about 1 meter in height and wore gray-colored, tight-fitting outfits. The beings were bald-headed with small noses and mouths and huge black eyes. One carried something resembling a walking cane. The other had what appeared to be a vacuum cleaner-like object. Both beings then began operating the vacuum-like object, seemingly extracting water from the ocean. After 10 minutes, they re-entered the object. Moments later, the object descended to 10 meters above the waters, causing them to become even more turbulent, creating large waves and foam. See, I find these stories interesting because I just wanted to point out. I wonder, like I always wonder in the incident that I was involved in 1994, if that's what that was all about. You know, I was fishing at this pond at this place called Beach Mountain Lakes in Hazleton, Pennsylvania, with a friend, and you know, it was at night. It was almost 10 o'clock at night actually when this thing showed up. It was a pretty huge craft. I mean, in my mind, it looked like this. It was like a ranch house just floating toward us with no sound whatsoever, with these 3 giant circular headlights, but they're huge, lined up horizontally. And it moved to our position. We were shore fishing. Like I was in one part of the shore and my buddy was in another part. And then this thing shows up and basically comes within 20 feet. It was within 20 feet of where I was standing looking at this thing. And my buddy was basically almost underneath the edge of it with a flashlight. He shined it up underneath. And then the thing just decided to fly away off into another direction. We got out of there quick, and while we were on a dirt road. We were actually driving parallel to where this thing flew, and we actually had to stop on this dirt road while there was at least 20 deer crossing the road, running away from the direction where that thing just flew. And now, I remember I talked to Preston Dennett about this, and I brought this up before. I just want to mention it again quick. I talked to Preston Dennett about this, and he said that they were probably there for me because I did have an experience when I was a kid, of course, when there was one of these beings in my room. So that's possible. I mean, Preston's been studying this a lot longer than I have, so he might be right about that. Or I thought maybe one of the ideas I had was that they were there for the deer. I mean, maybe they were there to mutilate a deer, and that's why the deer were running away. They were afraid. But then again, they could have been there to basically take on water from that pond, perhaps. I mean, it seems like there's a lot of different cases where you hear flying saucers showing up over a body of water, and somehow taking on water from it. I've talked about that old guy back in. I actually went on site a month or so ago in Gerardville, Pennsylvania, where there was a story in the late 1960s where there was a guy, Leonard Ullosis, who had to walk his dog near this old stripping mining pit that was filled with water, but it was in the middle of wintertime and it was covered with ice. And he said there was a perfectly cut circle in the ice, and then that thing flying saucer came flying out of it and just shot up straight up in the sky like a bullet. So there's just so many cases where with water, involving water and craft. You wonder what's going on here. After talking yesterday, I wonder if I was talking about how basically the washroom procedures of extraterrestrials, that maybe what they're doing when abductees are brought on craft and they see alien beings floating in tanks filled with some liquid. Some people always surmise that maybe they're receiving nutrition through their pores. What I was saying yesterday's podcast is that maybe what's happening is that they're actually excreting, right? They excrete through their pores, apparently. That's one of the latest theories that's been thrown out there by some anonymous person on Reddit, as we all know. I'm not going to get into all of that again. What if they have to replace? What if they're taking on water for that purpose? They have to get rid of the stuff that's the old stuff in there, and they replace it with new stuff for these purposes. We don't know. It's all speculation, but they do take on water, and I'm sure they do need the drink, right? They do need the drinks, have some sort of a fluid in their system. But it's very interesting. Now, getting back to the praying mantis discussion, I want to just bring up one more point. Now, yesterday morning when I woke up, one of the first things I did, I go online to see what some of the latest news is, and I saw that there was a video, a new podcast that was published by Doug Poppa. He's a former police officer who now does his own podcast, talks about all different kind of things going on in the Las Vegas area. He's the one who broke that story with regard to the Las Vegas alien, the first person, before Channel 8 later on provided another report. But he was the first one to talk about it. And he basically, in his headline for his video, he basically called it a hoax. I was thinking, wow, he must have found something out with regard to this Las Vegas alien story that made him realize that this is a hoax, and I guess I'm going to end up with egg on my face. So I watched the video. It was an hour and 42 minutes long. I sat there watching this whole podcast, and he would provide these long-winded build-ups, and I was waiting for the payoff every time, and there really was no payoff. I mean, he just offered an opinion that he thinks it's a hoax now. He says he doesn't see anything on the video that was provided by the family where you could see a being. I have to protest there. Allow me to retort. I did have, like I pointed out before on numerous times already, that I did have crime scene reconstruction expert Scott Roeder on. There does seem to be something on that video. I believe that there is. I believe that there was a being there. I believe it possibly could actually be a praying mantis. We just don't know. How it got there, where it got there, was there a crafter? We don't know. But anyway, I guess getting back to the point here with Doug Poppa, I did send him an email yesterday. I don't expect a response. It doesn't seem like he cares about he doesn't seem like he wants to talk about this anymore. It seems like he wants to distance himself. From what I gathered listening to his podcast yesterday, that he wants to distance himself from this. He doesn't want to be, I think, connected, have any sort of connection with people who are interested in UFOs and the extraterrestrial presence. He doesn't. I don't know if he wants to even go there anymore. He seemed very defensive when he was during his presentation. Of course, I'll leave the link here so you can check it out for yourself. But again, what I found, I mean, he might have had a couple of good points that led to him coming to his conclusion that he thinks it's a hoax. But again, it was only opinion. I was waiting to see some sort of evidence that would nail it down, because I mean, he was the one who first reported this, but he didn't offer any evidence. Again, what he did was he provided these long explanations, building up towards something, and then when it finally got to it, there was nothing at the end. There was really nothing there that proves it's a hoax whatsoever. He just wanted to give his opinion, I guess. But I did send him a segment of that video from where Scott Roeder pointed out that there is something moving in that a couple of those frames, and I don't know. As far as I'm concerned, I still don't see this as a hoax. I don't think it will ever be proven as a hoax. I don't see, unless the family all came out and said, yeah, we perpetrated a hoax, but I don't see that ever happening, because then that means somebody's going to go to jail, for one thing, right? Because they called 911. There was a 911 call. Somebody's going to get in trouble if that was a hoax, and I don't think it was. I think when you look at all those videos, you look at everything in totality, yeah, there might have been some inconsistencies here and there, right? But the bottom line is they were scared of something. Something scared that family, and in particular, when you look at that little video segment that was provided by, identified by Scott Roeder, I just think that there is something there. Doesn't make me right, but that's my opinion. Anyway, thank you for joining me. Until next time.